Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, playfastfootball.blogspot.com. Today we're going to talk about some easy RPOs, key screens that blend perfectly with tempo. And we're going to take a look at running them from a very simple formation that stays the same, which builds into your ability to play faster. And we're going to take a look at how you can run these simple variations off of an inside zone scheme that can give you a couple different ways to affect defenders and a couple different ways for you to manipulate some of the responsibilities of those defenders. So I think for most of us offensively, I think the problem that a lot of us get into is sometimes we feel like it's the multiplicity of our schemes that are going to give the defense problems. And what happens is, when you get to multiple schemes, you start to reduce practice time, you start to reduce game plan time, and it's really hard to get good at all those schemes. But in your mind, you feel like if you can present all those different schemes, that is what's going to give the defense a bunch of issues. When in reality, what really gives the defense issues is your ability to execute the scheme that you're running, and then your ability to be flexible off that scheme so that you can conflict or attack different players or put different defensive players in some type of conflict or burden based on their assignment and their defense. So you need to sometimes get away from the idea that it's these multiple schemes that I need 7 different runs and 10 different passes to attack a defense, and really get back to only having a few runs and a few passes that have the ability with variation to attack a defense. And then your ability to get better at those schemes is really what's going to, make you more efficient as an offense and give the defense a little bit more trouble than it is to dabble in multiple schemes but not really be good at any of them. So the thing I like about what we're going to talk about today is it builds perfectly into tempo. And one of the reasons I started getting into tempo football was when I was a little bit younger in my career. I wanted to run everything, and I wanted to run everything every game, and kind of became the jack of all trades, master of none. And when I started studying tempo, the thing that I really liked about it was you had to convince yourself in the tempo world to constrict your playbook and minimize your thoughts with what you really want to run, and then just have some wrinkles and variations in what you want to run to attack a defense. So it was kind of almost my way of forcing myself not only to enjoy what the tempo offensive mindset creates for you from not only a game plan scenario but a practice plan scenario, the amount of reps that you're able to get, the amount of practice time that you're able to get by upping the tempo, the mindset of having a sense of urgency with your players all the time, which I think is very, very important in today's day and age with the kids that we're dealing with. You need a sense of urgency. They need to understand that everything you're doing is important. So to give them limited time in practice to have free thoughts or free time to get off track, or to not be focused on what they're doing, or in the educational world what you would call on task, when you up the tempo and you force kids to practice that way, you're not giving them a chance to get off task. So what it did for me is it allowed me to not only study what tempo is and why tempo is effective, but it forced me to kind of limit my offensive mindset from, an original standpoint. When I was younger, I wanted to run everything, and now I've got to kind of condense everything because I can't play that fast if I want to run all those different things. So for me, tempo was kind of a self-correcting system, to where I forced myself to study tempo and understand tempo. So in turn, I forced myself to shrink and limit my playbook. And now as I get older, I start to think about carrying less and less things and trying to get better at the things that I'm actually carrying with some variation. So what I'm going to show you today is something that can be done out of what I would call, in our system, turbo tempo. And turbo tempo, and we've talked about this in other videos before, turbo tempo means same formation over and over again. So if you're not changing the formation and you're not signaling that formation, and that's one less signal, one less piece of communication that has to go in, therefore should be able to play faster. So all these things we're going to draw up out of a spread 2-back look with the backs and what I would call a near set for us in our terminology, where they're both stacked on the same side near to the strength of the formation, which happens to be the right. All right, and for argument's sake, we're going to look at it today versus a 3-3 box so that we can kind of change it up from our standard 4-2 box that we always look at. We'll draw it up out of a 3-3 box, 3-3 stack look. So what we're going to talk about today off inside zone and zone variations is going to be these simple, all right, these simple tags to the zone play that can get us to effectively attack a defense and change who we're trying to manipulate, read, or who we're trying to affect with the certain plays that we're running. All right, and so what we're going to talk about today is what we call slip, saw, bubble, snag, flare. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at a theory where on offense you're always looking for a hat for a hat. Anytime you can get a hat for a hat, okay, whether it's in the read game or not, you got to understand how many hats you have blocking at the point of attack, how many hats they have, and if you can get a hat on a hat and everybody executing the assignment, you can get a good play. So we're going to look at this kind of two different ways. All right, we're going to look at it inside the box. We're going to look at it as 5-on-5, reading a 6th. Then we're going to look at it as 6-on-6, reading a 7th, which I would call locking the box. All right, in other words, there's 6 in the box. I'm going to use 6 blockers to block the 6 in the box. I'm going to lock the box up, and I'm going to read off a 7th defender. Okay, so I'm only talking with these numbers, I'm talking about inside the box, the guys that I'm using inside the box. All right, because when we draw the first 2 plays with the slip and the saw, I actually have 7 blockers involved in the scheme. All right, but 2 of the blockers are going to be out here on the perimeter, so I'm not talking about those 2. I'm talking about inside the box, 5-on-5, read 6, 6-on-6, read 7. Always have the ability to access off an 8th man in the box if you start getting, all right, loaded looks or too many in the box. When you're talking about 5-on-5, read 6, you cannot run that scheme versus 7-man box. So you have to understand right away as a coordinator or your quarterback has to understand 5-on-5, read 6 versus 7 is bad math. So you have to have the ability in a tempo world to do something else with the football. We've talked about that on several different videos, and that's what makes tempo so great is you have built-in answers. All right, so we're going to look at 5-on-5, read 6, 6-on-6, read 7. So the first one we're going to look at, all right, is called the slip play. Okay, and we can do it from this formation because we're in this turbo set where we want to stay here. All right, I like it better when the fullback is away. I think it times up a little bit better, but we can still do it from this set and be effective. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with inside zone, all right, and we're going to run inside zone to the left. All right, so take right tackle and we're going to zone up through the B gap, try and get up and see if we can get to that Sam linebacker if that end will let us. We're going to take the backside guard in the center are going to be responsible for the nose up to the stack. The front side guard and tackle are going to be responsible, all right, for the 4 or the 5 or the 4-eye up to that, what I would right now declare as the will linebacker, okay? We're going to read a C-gap defender. We're assuming right now that it's going to be this end. If the end stunts inside, then it would be the Sam. We're reading the C-gap player, all right? And essentially, if you want to look at it from a simplicity of a gap standpoint, B-gap, A-gap, A-gap, B-gap, C-gap are the 5 gaps that we're blocking. So our 5 players are blocking those 5 gaps in essence, and we're assuming that the defense is going to have 5 players to fit those 5 gaps if they want to play good, sound defensive football with integrity in their run fits. Okay, so we're going to run inside zone with the tailback. All right, and what we're going to do on the outside is we're actually going to block the perimeter. We're going to take the fullback behind the line of scrimmage on a shoot route to the flat, but he's got to stay behind the line of scrimmage because we are blocking the perimeter. So if the ball gets thrown to him, he can't be beyond the line of scrimmage with us blocking those players, then you're going to get, all right, pass interference calls. So I'm going to take the fullback and slip him out to the flat. We're going to read a C-gap defender with inside zone. So it's going to start off our base run play, all right, inside zone. We've got to be able to block inside zone if we want to play in this offense and play with tempo. So it's going to start with that scheme. We've got to be able to execute that scheme with 5-on-5, reading a 6th. So we're going to block B-gap to C-gap on the other side, and we're going to read the C-gap player, which is the 6th player on this side, whether it's the end or the Sam, we really don't care. We're going to read the C-gap defender. Okay, then we're going to slip the fullback out into the flat, and then we're going to take the backside and give him a chance to run either a hitch route or a fade route, depending on the look he gets from the corner. And then the quarterback's going to have to take care of a backside defender who is number 8 in the box. Okay, he's going to have to be able to take care of that defender. If that guy squeezes to the box to the point to where we're never going to be able to block him, and he's now fitting runs for 1 to no gain, 1 yard gain, and he's the unblocked player, we've got to do something with the football in that scheme outside of that. Okay, so you're going to have an inside zone play with a fullback slipped in the flat with a read on a C-gap defender. C-gap defender squeezes to take the zone away. We throw the slip. C-gap defender stays high. We run the inside zone, and if it's 5-on-5, we've got to win 5-on-5. That comes down to the execution of the scheme, okay, and not necessarily the multitude of or the multiplicity of the scheme to come up with 10 different ways to block those 5 defenders. We just got to have a way that our 5 can beat and block their 5 when it's a hat on a hat. We got to win one-on-ones. Okay. Next one we're going to talk about is a saw concept, and all that is we're just going to switch. We're going to run the same concept, and all we're going to do is we're going to switch the responsibilities of the sniffer and the Z receiver. So we're going to run fast hands, fast feet, back down inside, kind of like a tunnel. But we're not coming all the way inside like a middle screen. We're just going to work ourselves back so that we set up the block for the sniffer. We're going to slip the sniffer out, but he's actually going to go out and block the corner. So now we're running the same theory with the quarterback. It's inside zone, access throw, 5-on-5, read 6. Now we're going to throw the ball to a stand-up, all right, receiver, and we're going to run it more of an inside tunnel look than a stand-up smoke because I want him to create separation from that corner. All right, and again, this is something you'd have to do off a soft look. If you get a press corner, you probably can't run this. The fullback has too far to run. But if it's a soft corner and a 2-read or a palms look or a quarters look with an off defender, all right, you've got enough right now and enough room if you just wiggle him, fast hands, fast feet off the ball to sell like he's doing something up the field. Then bring him back inside, but understand that he's still got to keep that track. He can't tunnel all the way inside the block of the slot receiver. If they're inside the slot, then we have leverage to block that player inside. We've got to be outside the slot's block and then inside the fullback's block. So it's the same scheme up front. We've just switched, all right? And that's why, in essence, saw concept is we're just going to run the slip theory, okay, and switch. So a little word association. We're going to switch the assignments, all right? So we just call it a saw theory. So that would be inside zone saw as opposed to inside zone slip. Okay, now, those are 5-on-5, read 6. Now what we're going to take a look at is 6-on-6, read 7. So now from the same formation, and again, a big part of what we're talking about here is being in the same formation because that's how we're going to increase the tempo. That's how we're going to be able to up the tempo is we're going to stay in that formation. So we've got to be able to run a multitude of things, all right, out of that formation, and again, not a multitude of schemes. Okay, don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say. Not a multitude of schemes, a multitude of things or variations out of that formation that we can do to be or present a different look while still playing at an extremely fast pace. Because if we're in a turbo setting, that formation is in, don't even look for a formation, just get lined up in that over and over and over again. Yes, on the hash mark, I'll do it into the boundary. Okay? Yes, I could flip it. If the ball got to a hash mark, the number one question I get all the time is if you're in turbo and it's spread right near and the ball gets on the right hash, do you stay in it? My answer is yes. Okay? I'll stay in it for another play or two, and if the boundary becomes that big of a deal, then I'll just kill that tempo and get into something else. But I'm not going to kill the tempo the first time the ball gets on the right hash because the reason we're in that turbo setting is the tempo. Okay? And you've got to have a bigger vision with your mindset on offense than just 1 to 2 plays. All right. Sometimes if that ball gets on the right hash, I want to be in that turbo tempo, especially early in the game. Okay. And if I'm forced to throw the slip into the boundary or maybe the tunnel into the boundary, yeah, on paper it may not be as good as you want it to the field. But if the tempo is effective, I'm still affecting that defense and I'm still making them play at a pace that later on in the game hopefully will catch up to them. Okay. So you got to remember it's a 4-quarter game. Don't ever make a call. All right. Just for one play at a time. And I don't mean that play is not important. That's not what I mean at all. Every play in a game is a life of its own, and it's the utmost important play. And the next play is always the utmost important play. But to throw a slip or a stand-up tunnel, you know, a tunnel version of a stand-up screen where you're working your way back inside into the boundary, you can still get 3 to 5 to 6, 7 yards if you run it right into the boundary. So yeah, you like to run it to the field. You'd like to have grass out there, but that doesn't mean you have to. So no, I don't kill the tempo if the ball gets on the right hash. I'll stay in it. All right, so If I need to, then I can get out of it or I can flip the formation. But if I'm in this, the reason I'm in this is I want to play as fast as I can. So now we're going to look at just a simple, all right, bubble scheme, all right, where now what we're going to do is we're going to block zone with a locked offensive lineman, and it's going to become an ISO theory. So for the backside tackle, I'm going to lock this end, and the big key is get your inside foot in the ground, keep your leverage, and don't let them cross your face. The other 4 offensive linemen are going to block the same zone scheme that we just ran. And now I'm going to take the fullback and I'm going to isolate the Sam linebacker, which gives me 6 on 6. So now I'm running zone insert, making it an ISO scheme. Okay? So we're going to lock the box 6 on 6 and we're going to read number 7. So now we're just going to go stalk, bubble, and the quarterback's going to read number 7 on the inside zone. We still have this access theory here. Inside zone, read number 7 now. If he tries to fit the run, we throw the bubble. If he stays with enough width, it's 6 on 6 in the box. We got to win within that scheme. So now we're in a world where we're locked box, 6 on 6, read 7, access 8. Okay? Simple way to do it. Simple bubble concept. All right? 7's got to make up his mind. Does he want to be, is he a fast fitter or a slow fitter? If he's a slow fitter in the run game and he doesn't really have anywhere to fold into and he stays out here, I feel like I got 6 on 6. Got to control that 8th guy weak. If I can control him, I feel like my guys have a chance to win 6 on 6. That's a good football play. If it goes for -1 or -2, you have problems with the execution of the play. You don't have problems with the football play or the football call. If I have 6 and they have 6, I read 7, control 8. That's a good football play. If I run this play into a 7-man box and it goes for a 2-yard loss, that's a bad coaching job. I don't have 7 players to block. There's 7 players. How can I expect it to be a good play? Okay, if it is a good play, it's because they fit it wrong or one of their defenders disappears, because 7 on 6 should win every time if they fit it fundamentally the right way. Okay, so now you've got to an inside zone with a lock tackle. You only have to lock 1 lineman when you're playing an odd front like this. You only have to lock the tackle so the other 4 linemen block inside zone. All right, and now you're throwing bubble, okay, off of that other defender. Now, we can do the same thing and we can change the look for the defense by giving them a snag corner. Okay. Same scheme, 6 on 6 in the box, inside zone, lock the box with an insert ISO player. Now we're going to change and maybe try and get our number 1 involved in the game, and we're going to come with a snag and a corner route. Why do we run corner route? Okay, because we want to hold versus the defenses we see. We want to keep that corner off the snag. So if we go vertical, a lot of times that corner looks at the number 2. If we push vertical, that corner will void a little bit. Okay, and then we always build in the option if for whatever reason we're getting any type of man theories or a hard corner. Quarterback could always, if he felt like he had the right read to do so, if this area was vacated and this guy fit the run and he had to throw the ball, he could throw that corner. All right, we've never thrown that corner off an RPO in the game yet, but it is still part of the option depending on the look you get. We're used to seeing this 2-read palms look for so many teams that we play that when we read off a 7, we'd like to throw the ball in the area that he vacated. All right, so I don't try and draw a scheme up where I read off a 7 and when he vacates I throw to an area that he didn't vacate. Alright, but it still is in the package so that for whatever reason if this corner triggered hard to the snag, alright, the quarterback still has an answer that he can go to. Alright, that's just not something that we preach to the quarterback. It's not something that we want to live by. If we're running inside zone and reading off a 7, let's throw the ball where 7 left. If number 7, strong safety right here, 7 guy, what I'm calling number 7, I mean number 7, 6 in the box, 7th defender. All right, if he's the 7th defender and he leaves, then let's throw the ball where he left. That's the idea of the RPO. Him leaving and us taking a shot downfield, just make it a play action pass. Don't make it an RPO. Him leaving makes us want to throw the ball where he left. That's what conflicts a defender. He's not conflicted folding the run and us throwing the corner route. So we don't want to build that in as the look for the quarterback, but it's in there just in case we get some type of hard cover 2 or that area where he folds, we have to pull, but when we pull, okay, somebody's squeezing the snag route. All right, so you have that's in to hold the corner and make the corner void and vacate, but if for whatever reason it happens where the corner triggers a snag, we can throw that if the 7th defender gives us that read. Okay, So that's snag off the insert play. And then what we can also do is we can run a tailback flare quarterback RPO. Now what we can do is we can take this tailback and we can push him in motion real quick before the snap to get leverage and jet him as hard as we can out wide on the flare route. We can block the corner, we can block the strong safety. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to lock 6-on-6 in the box, and we're going to tell the quarterback, if this box player doesn't widen with the tailback, we've got 2 blockers for their 2 nearest defenders. Free safety's the only other defender. If he were to roll down possibly, then we've got to go back to the access. If the free safety doesn't trigger down and we get 2 blocks with the ball to the tailback, and this player doesn't remove to gain leverage, okay, if he doesn't remove to gain leverage, we should have block, ball in the tailback's hands, should have a good play. Now, if you miss this block or miss this block, you might not have a good play, but on paper as a play caller, what else can you get to? You push it back out, defense doesn't adjust, and you have 2 blockers in front of the back. Anybody that would take 2 blockers in front of the back in open space, if you just did a drill in practice where you put 2 defenders out there with 2 blockers and you toss that back to football, I think you'd feel pretty good that you should win that battle. So it's really no different if I can push this guy in motion and get him to the flat and nobody from the defense moves to adjust and I have 2 blockers, all I have to do is execute these 2 blocks and I've got myself a good play. Now, because it's still 6-on-6 in the box, if this player wants to move outside the box to defend the tailback, the quarterback can just put a foot in the ground and run ISO. We've got the same ISO zone insert scheme. Now the quarterback's the ball carrier if your quarterback is a runner. Okay? If your quarterback is not a runner, then you don't want RPOs where him running is part of the read. If your quarterback is a runner, then by all means use a 6 blocker and make him and let him run the football. All right? Now you got to understand what your personnel is. If he's a runner, let him run. So we'll read a guy in an RPO scheme. All right? Get it back out. Get a chance to put the ball in the back's hands in the flat. Zone ISO up front, so it's a base scheme for us that we've got to be good at, we've got to be able to execute. 6-on-6 in the box. Then the other thing that you get is if this guy is slightly out, but the quarterback's not really sure, now you've created a little bit of leverage for your sniffer. Now he can actually get that Sam. That Sam can't spill the ball if he moves a little bit. So if that Sam were to widen a little bit, but the quarterback still thinks that he's covering the flare and he runs the zone, when that Sam comes back to fit, it's going to be hard for him to spill the ball because the fullback or the sniffer should have a good angle on him. Okay? If he stays in the box where he can fit this run and possibly spill it out to the strong safety, there's no way he can cover the back out. The only way they can get another number is by rotating the free safety down. If they rotate the free safety down, the quarterback has to understand, probably need to go back there with the football because most times if they're going to roll that guy, they're probably going to roll or push that guy. If they roll that down and they don't do anything else to the middle of the field, it's a little bit unsound if you can take advantage of it. All right, and a good thing to keep in mind is nothing on defense is unsound if you can't take advantage of it. So if they roll a guy down and don't roll a guy to the middle and you can't get the ball to the middle, that's not unsound. What's unsound is if they roll down and get numbers to the flare and don't spin to the middle. Okay, and now you can get, whether it's play action, doesn't matter how you do it, if you can get that guy to the middle or that guy to the middle with no middle help, now you're creating one-on-one situations, all right, to a vacated part of the field. All right, but don't say something's unsound on defense if you can't attack it. It's not unsound. So if they roll a free safety down and they crush the back and they leave numbers in the box against the quarterback, and when he rolls down, he can hug tight, the Sam spills the ISO to him and you have no play, don't say that's an unsound defense. You have to be able to attack it to make it unsound. All right, so those are 5 real simple schemes. We've talked about some of them before in other videos. 5 simple schemes from the same formation that can be run at a very fast pace. They're all off of our inside zone with one slight lock variation. All right, they're all based on 5-on-5, read 6, 6-on-6, read 7, access off number 8. If you can keep your offense in those terms, all right, you can get your kids to understand the numbers and the game of numbers to say, hey, look, if we got 5-on-5 and can't win, we're a bad football team. If we have 6-on-6 and can't win, we're a bad football team. They're not bad football plays. We're just bad at executing those plays. So you got to get better at blocking inside zone. You got to get better at combinations and climbing. You got to get better at taking a power step inside and not letting an end cross your face. We don't have to get better football plays. We have to get better at the football plays that we're running. All right, so as a coordinator, that is your job to put your team in great situations. Combine tempo with RPOs and key screens from one formation, and now you've got a series where you can rip off a couple plays in a row without changing formations and put some stress on the defense, make them get lined up, maybe eliminate some of the calls, maybe see how quickly their coordinator can communicate. Okay? And you can now run them all off of your base system. So you're running them off inside zone with one slight variation. Quarterback is just changing who he's reading. Quarterback needs to understand, are we 5-on-5? Are we 6-on-6? Can we control number 8 on the backside? All right, once you get that done, kind of makes everything come down to execution, which is the beauty of the game. You can eliminate the guesswork of saying, well, I guess I just got to call better plays. That was me for the first 10 years of my career. Every game we lost, I thought I called bad plays. And then as I got older, I started figuring out it's not so much that I called bad plays. Yeah, I probably called a bunch of them, but they weren't all bad plays. A lot of them were good plays. We just didn't run them well. So there's a difference between a good play and a good play call. A good play call is still a good play call even if you don't have success running the play. You don't have success running the play because somebody somewhere didn't execute or you lost a one-on-one battle somewhere. You know, and where we are in Florida, there's times where I've called great ball plays, but if you're playing a 3 technique that's in the NFL, that's not a great ball play if he kills the guard. All right? Still a good play call, it's just not a good play. But you called a great play, you had numbers, you had everything where you want it, but an NFL 3 technique beat up on, or a future NFL 3 technique beat up on a high school guard that doesn't play college football, you end up with a bad play. I don't think you end up with a bad play call. And that to me is the biggest key to being a successful offensive coordinator. Understand the difference between bad play calls and bad execution of plays. If you can do that, then I think you can get yourself to where you understand that we've just got to do these things better. We don't have to make up 8, 10 more plays. That was me when I first started. If a play didn't work, I had to come with a different scheme or a different play. No, that doesn't mean that. If a play didn't work, but it was the right call and the right numbers, maybe we just got to get better at running that play. Okay? If you keep that in mind, I think you can help yourself as an offensive coordinator in the future. I think you can help your kids get better because you can execute some fundamentals a little bit more. All right? And I think you can play at a faster pace. And as always for us, all right, we always understand we won't play well until we can play fast. I'll see you guys next time.